So it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speakers. Join me, please. So Estelle Fournier. So Estelle is an experienced art advisor and an independent dealer specializing in contemporary art. Do I need to turn that off? Is it echoing?
I got it.
You got it? Contemporary art sourcing, acquisition, and curating for private clients. Estelle is the founder of Partner in Art, a boutique art advisory firm. Estelle sources art for her clients from sought-after emerging and established artists, represented by the most prestigious art galleries. In the last several years, she has placed hundreds of works of art in the entire art collection spectrum, from making the connection, buying, and curating private collections and long-term collection management. Estelle brings to her clients years of experience working in art, in the art world. She's a committed volunteer who has held multiple leadership positions in local art institutions. She served until recently on the board of Summit Public Art, which is a Summit-based not-for-profit. Over the past decade, Estelle has brought many artists of national and international renown to the program, earning Summit the recognition of being one of the 7 New Jersey towns with great art scenes. Prior to her involvement with Summit Art, Estelle Fournier served for 10 years in multiple capacities on the board of the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey. She holds a master's in journalism and public affairs from American University and an art business degree from NYU. Estelle was raised in Paris. She's fluent in English, French, and Spanish. She has been a longtime resident of Summit with she and her family. So Estelle, thank you.
Thank you.
And I want to introduce also Vivian Furman Rubin. So Vivian was born in France, came to the United States when she was 5. She was raised in Brooklyn, New York, before it was chic. She has an MBA in developmental psychology, and the bulk of her career has been spent at AT&T, which I explained we have a number of AT&T people in the room, focused on government regulatory issues and international sales strategies. After retiring from AT&T, Vivian returned to school and received her teaching certificate. For several years, she taught English as a second language to employees in nursing homes and corporations. Vivian is married to Julian Rubin, and she has a son, a stepdaughter, stepson, and 9 grandchildren together. She has called Summit home for approximately 30 years, and the city has afforded her many opportunities to indulge her passions for art, architecture, and design. Vivian became a member of Summit Public Art at its inception 23 years ago. And she's been a docent at the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey for many years. Vivian feels incredibly fortunate to live in such an amazing place. And we are very fortunate for the 2 of you. So I am delighted to introduce you to both.
Thank you.
While Estelle is setting up, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting us today. It's quite an honor. I did not realize how wonderful this organization is. Excuse me. I just heard about it, and I really think it's a marvelous place, and you're very fortunate to have it. Thank you. Okay, so I brought a cheat sheet because I brought a cheat sheet because I have a lot of things to say. So, okay, so I have been with Summit Public Art. My name is Vivian Furman Rubin. My first husband, who's sadly deceased, worked at Bell Laboratories for many, many years and is responsible for the first, I'm forgetting. So calling plans, for the first calling plans. And at the end of his career, he was working on improving the quality of the telephony in the country. And if you have a cell phone today, you know that the quality, it's a wonderful thing, but the quality is not the same as it was 20 some odd years back when you could hear a pin drop. So he was working on that. I just had to put in a good word for him. Okay, so Summit Public Art was started.
I was going to introduce myself.
I'm so
Sorry,
sorry,
well,
Estelle.
I guess Terry made an introduction, but Estelle Fournier. So I was co-chair of Summit Public Art with Vivian for many years. So I was on the board until recently, until 2 years ago when I stepped down to focus on my business. It's sometimes hard, all consuming volunteer work can become hard to juggle. So we were co-chair of the board together for 4 years. I was treasurer, I was co-chair of the art selection committee. And during my time, which was during COVID, we started a nonprofit, Friends of Summit Public Art. So Summit Public Art was under the Summit Public Foundation, but they decided had grown. It was time to have our own non-for-profit. So Friends of Summit Public Art is a fundraising arm of Summit Public Art. So without further ado, Vivian is going to tell you more about the working of Summit Public Art, what we do, and I hope you enjoy. So Vivian.
Thank you, Estelle. And oh, by the way, we're still good friends, so you know it was.
But that was a really great opportunity for us to get back
Yes,
together.
Yes.
Which is
Okay, so I think I'm in the right place physically. So let me just say, okay. So Summit Public Art started 23 years ago. If you live in Summit, you may have heard of a woman named Janet Whitman, who had been mayor in Summit. And she was no longer mayor, but she and Reagan Burkholder, who was the head of the city organization, the city that worked on everything in the city, decided that while the city was undergoing a renovation, we should also include public art. And, excuse me, and our mission is to bring art to Summit. That is the mission of the organization. So originally, the thought was that we would bring permanent art to Summit. And the point was we would always have a critical mass of public art in that city to enable it to always have people consider us a city of art. Very quickly, let me just talk a little bit about funding. So Summit Public Art is a city entity. However, we get no funding from the city. All of our funds come from donations, corporate sponsorship, and grants. As I said, we started out doing permanent public art, but we quickly realized that the best formula was permanent art along with temporary art, because temporary art refreshes the scene, it keeps the conversation going, and it's also very tricky to install permanent art. You have to ensure that this is going to be something that retains people's interest over the years. And we have tried to do that, and I can talk about it a little bit later, but temporary art enables us to bring all different kinds of art. Some people love some of the art, some people don't, but they know it's going to leave. So, it's an opportunity to be more original, if you will. Okay, so we did transition to temporary art, and to date, we have installed approximately 125 temporary art pieces, and you will see many of them as we continue with our discussion, and we have 9 permanent pieces. Another interesting thing that we've started doing is an outreach program to the schools in Summit. So last year we started this program where we do an art in the classroom for each second grade in the city. And what we do is we talk about the public art that is in town at the time. And the kids, second graders, are all artists. They're all wonderful, they're free, they're not inhibited. So they love the public art. They are aware of the public art in town, which really was amazing to us. And then what we do in the program is we talk about one specific piece, and then we give them materials with which to make a work of art in class related to that piece. And they're having a lot of fun, and we're going to continue to do this program. I thought you might be interested in some fun facts. We got this from an organization called Summit Downtown Inc., which is a community of the business owners in town. There are approximately 17,000 people who enter Summit downtown every day to work, to eat, to shop, to bring their kids to some event. And annually, 2.5 billion people go through Summit downtown. And of course, we're talking about repeat people, people who live in town, but from other towns as well. I'll just finish up by telling you that, so today we have 9 permanent pieces in town and 5 permanent temporary art pieces that we rotate in every year as the other permanent art pieces are removed to keep the conversation going.
When we were on the board, you know, over time, the organization has a little bit evolved in the way, you know, we are placing arts. And, you know, over time, we've learned some major learning of what works as public art. So, the public art is not the same thing as the art you put in your home. So really the key factors are scale. We discover that scale matter, large piece really make an impact, are highly visible, anchor the space. So I don't know if anyone remember that big curtain steel sculpture that was on the Village Green. That really was a very monumental piece. And if we have to place smaller works, then we really careful about where we place it, you know, maybe in more of the downtown where people can really get up close to the work and enjoy the work. We don't want it to be lost in a big space. Also, we discovered that color matters. You know, public art really is to bring conversation, but also make a statement, be joyful, you know, bring, you know, especially in the winter, if you have a big red sculpture like we had in the past, you really bring life to the space. And then when I say location and surrounding setting, we've really learned a lot about where to place each space. You know, you want to be highly visible by a lot of people. You don't want like a bus stop to block the sculpture. So we really careful. Some color work better if there is a greenery surrounding, you know, to create like a kind of a space where to showcase the artwork at its best. Also, years ago, we placed art all over Summit, including the memorial field, but it lacked cohesiveness. So we tried to create like a 1 mile perimeter around the downtown to get a gallery kind of feeling, a public art walk. So where each piece you can walk from one to the other, and it creates like a kind of a little bit of mass and makes it more interesting. And actually over the year, Summit Public Art has done a public art tour where we invited the community, and I don't know if any one of you has participated, to walk around town, starting usually from City Hall, where we always have a piece, and all around town to discover and learn about the artwork. So really trying to find key strategic location where we get the highest visibility and where people get the most, enjoy the most. And I have to say, you know, the time I was on, so I stepped down 2 years ago, I was on the board over 10 years. Overall, we got great response from the people who live in Summit. Realtor tell us, you know, it's one of the selling point for Summit. I think it differentiates Summit, although public art is now become, you know, ubiquitous, if you want. And a lot of other towns have done it. I think we've done it especially well, you know, bringing artists of, you know, renowned artists, well-recognized artists, especially important where we live right outside New York, where so many artists not only live, but so many people know about art. So Vivian and I decided to give you a little virtual tour. So we've each going to talk about 4 sculpture. I think it's the best way to exemplify and to showcase what we were trying to say. So Vivian will start the virtual tour, and then we'll talk about each piece a little bit, and then we'll open to questions.
Thank you, Estelle. Okay, so many of you may have seen this piece. It's the Silver Sentinel tree. We did it, let me see, I think it was in 2012 that we installed this piece. It was our second huge effort to put in a permanent piece We wanted it to be a gateway piece. We wanted people to come into Summit and right away see a piece of art. So if you haven't seen it, it is on Broad Street as you're going towards Milburn. And it's right near the ShopRite area, for those of you who know the area. It was created by Dow Blumberg, who's really nationally and internationally renowned. And he has a very famous piece right near the 9/11 site at Liberty Park called let me just see, it's called the Horse Soldier Statue for any of those who have been in the vicinity. I just read in the papers yesterday, while I was going through and trying to get more information about Dow for you. And he's just got the commission to make another piece for the city, for New York City, to be showcased in Queens. And it is going to be called, let's see what it's going to be called. It's going to be called the Flaming Honor Statue. And it's a memorial paying tribute to the 100 service members from New York who were killed and fought in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Just to give you some insight when we're working with the artists, Dow was very collaborative. And, creating art, these people are expressing their feelings, who they are, even when they get a commission for something specific. So Dow typically works in bronze. But we asked him if he would create this piece in stainless steel. We thought that originally that it would be more aesthetic in stainless steel, but serendipity also played a big part in it. And now, as you drive by this permanent piece, it's constantly changing because the stainless steel shimmers in different ways depending on the weather, how close the sun is to the earth. And so every day it's a surprise. And if you're driving down Broad Street, you'll see it and it just grabs your attention. So when I was saying that permanent art is a very unique thing, this is one of the reasons. It has to keep attracting you. Also, it can't offend anyone. Whereas with temporary art, you can be a little more daring. With permanent art, you want this to have broad-based appeal. You have to be particularly careful in what you're installing. And so here we have our silver sentinel tree. Go ahead. Next is Estelle.
So the other sculpture showcasing here was called Broadway Boogie by an artist named Jason Peters. So I think this sculpture in many ways accomplished so many things that we thought worked well. First, where it was installed, it was installed at City Hall. So it was a little bit elevated. So you really showcase the artwork well. This sculpture also is big, is red, and it's illuminated at night. It's made, and it was very interesting. I mean, we also try to bring artists, we bring something different to the conversation in terms of course, the type of work they make, but the material they use. So those were buckets, really like, I mean, the artist Jason Peters has made installation all over the United States, even in Canada, on top of building. He's quite well known, and that's his signature material are those industrial buckets that he assembled, created those shapes, and then he used a LED light that he programmed. So the one we had, we didn't have the programmable that can move because it was too expensive for our budget, but so those went on at night. But I think this was a highly visible sculpture, playful, and it really brought life to the space. So I think we felt good about that piece, So, yeah, next one.
Okay, so this is called The Watcher by Paul Santilleri. First of all, I need to tell you that serendipity plays a lot of parts in our life. In this case, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a trellis underneath the bird. And that was installed before this mural came around, and it didn't have greenery on it yet. And so I was standing there with some other people from Summit Public Art looking at the trellis thinking, you know, what can we do here? And someone came by and said to us, are you involved with the art program? Because he overheard what we were talking about. And we said yes. And he said, well, I work with the owner of this building. It's a private building. And I know that he would love to do a mural on the building. Wow, just fell into our laps. So it was the first mural that we did. Now, Paul Santelleri, we got him through the Visual Arts Center. They made a recommendation because, of course, we talk to people at the Visual Arts Center all the time. And they said, Paul Santelleri is a great mural artist. So we called him, I called him, and I went to see him first. One of the things I like to do when I'm working or trying to find an artist is, if at all possible, to go see them in their studios. Especially if I really like the art, I know, I want to see what kind of work they can do. So I went to his home and met him. He had done this amazing ceramic piece for the back of his garden. And the best part of the job is meeting the artists and becoming friendly if possible. So Paul had been with the Mural Arts program in Philadelphia that I have not yet. They have tours in Philadelphia. It's the best mural program, I think, in the country. And he's been with them for well over 30 years. He's done a lot of work in France. He's done a lot of work in Africa. And he agreed to do a mural for us. He came out to Summit to look at the wall, etc. And Paul is fascinated by lines. And if you see on the piece, you see all the movement of the lines in the background. And if you go to Philadelphia Airport, you will see a spectacular piece in ceramics that he did on the wall, which is of a feather. And it's just marvelous. It looks like a quill, you know? So Paul painted this piece in his studio, this mural in his studio, on something called Tyvek, which many of you have heard of, and it is impermeable to water. And so the building owner, which we consulted with all the time, of course, the building owner was not upset about the Tyvek because it really helps his building. And so he was able to paint the various sections of this piece in his home. And then he installed them like you would wallpaper when he came to the city. And then had to add some paint to paint some of the sections that extended beyond the wallpaper, like the I think the beak.
I think this.
And no, this is I believe most of this is wallpaper.
Okay.
But anyway, but there's like a railing that he painted, et cetera, et cetera. Paul really admires the great blue heron, which is why he selected this. And to me, this mural is like visual poetry. This great blue heron overlooking the city of Summit, which is referenced in the background. That eye makes me crazy. You know how when you look at a bird, like it looks like their vision is flat. Their eyes don't look like human eyes. You just see this flat section, but they see everything. Well, this blue heron sees everything. He's called the Watcher because Paul's father was an Italian gentleman who lived in America for many years. And he was retired, and he would go to cafes in Philadelphia and sit and observe the crowd going by. And sadly, he passed away shortly before Paul did this mural. So it was done to honor his dad. What else can I tell you about it? That's it for now. We can talk if you have any questions about this, but I'll.
Where is it?
It's at what we call the Lyric Park, which is across the street from the Cafe Boxwood. If you know Summit, it's on Beechwood Road. And there's a little pocket park there with tables. So it's on this great wall. It's 1 block over from Springfield Avenue, if you're going towards the train station.
What, the old Lyric Theater?
The old Lyric Theater. I don't No, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so. You're talking about the movie theater?
I don't know.
Right, it's the Lyric Movie Theater. My recollection is that it was on Springfield Ave. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is on,
Where was it?
this is on Beechwood at the intersection of Beechwood and Bank Street.
And it really transformed the space. I mean, it was one big empty wall, you know, in a parking lot. So it really makes a huge difference. Out here, I'm going to talk about Louis by David Godfrey. So this, you must have seen it because it came down just recently. On some occasion, although this was a temporary art installation, on some occasion, when it's a large installation like this one, we extend it for 2 years because it takes a lot of work to bring it in, not only money, but also all the logistic to bring the piece in. So this piece is made, David Godfrey is an artist, is very well-known artist, has done public art installation all over the United States. He lives upstate New York, teach at Colgate's, and like I said, has exhibited all over. So it just so happened, like Vivian says, serendipity. I was upstate New York in Hudson, walked into a gallery, and there was some installation partial because he couldn't install the whole thing, plus image. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Who is the artist? He's like, well, he's right there. So I introduced myself, we started conversation, and really it's one of the cases where I was not even certain who would be able to bring it. First, because of its scale. Second, he's a very well-known artist and his budget was more than, what we could afford. But luckily, a lot of those artists, sometimes this was a commission, but after a while, it was a commission, but not a permanent installation. So those artists end up with their sculpture, massive sculpture in their studio or in storage. So sometimes they're happy to give it a second life and to exhibit it. So really the artists, we pay an honorarium to the artists, plus we cover all the installation costs. So pretty much in that case, the artist did the installation at cost, but also it's also exemplify all the work that goes into the collaboration with the City of Summit, because we send application to the City of Summit. It's been approved, and especially in a case like that, by the Buildings and Grounds, the review, they make sure it's structurally sound. And a lot of those artists are very, are very technical. They use like a 3D modeling to create a sculpture, but still we have a very thorough review process. It's not us saying, okay, great, we want it, and then done. No, it's just like an application that go through the City of Summit, the Building and Ground Department, and then the Department of Public Works, when it's granted, offers some logistical help. They won't do the installation, but on so many occasions they come, they help the artists. They are on site to do whatever they can to help. And we've got great feedback from actually the Department of Public Works, where they actually like doing it because it's a little bit out of their, ordinary things they do for Summit. So this was really amazing that we were able to bring the sculpture for its scale, curtain steel. I don't remember.
I think it's like 30 feet
Yeah,
high.
yeah, I was gonna say
And
20, yeah.
Just think igloo
Yeah, that's
10 times or 20 times greater. It was massive.
like honeycombs.
Yes.
Yeah, and this we're also working with experienced artists makes a big difference, because you don't want someone who's never done that before install on public properties. You want an experienced artist who's done it over, came with a whole crew of worker, spending a couple of days, it's each piece is assembled, couple of days, assembling the piece. So it was really like a top professional. So I think this were also an example where, collaboration, scale, location work very well. And curtain steel also is one of the favored material for public art. There is bronze, curtain steel,
Marble?
no. Well, marble, yes, but no, carbon steel and steel.
Yes.
So this is, no, I hope we're going the wrong way here.
And that
So
was
that
then
was
on the
from-
Village Green.
That was on the Village Green and it came down just recently.
Yeah.
So another example of,
Okay, so
Hmm.
these pictures are good, but they really don't show you how this fountain piece really works. Okay, so Estelle and I co-chaired this effort. And boy, did we sweat it, because there are so many people and things that happen along the way, starting on the committee, going all through the city, although the city was very kind, but we had to meet with them many times.
and the Summit Downtown, it was
And
actually,
Summit Downtown sponsored this with us.
it was,
as
it
did
was,
many other
yeah,
groups.
it was a collaborative effort,
Yes.
yes.
So this artist's name is Ray King, and Ray King is internationally known. He does a lot of public art for government buildings around the world, spends a lot of time in Taiwan with these manufacturers who make chips, and does beautiful art for them inside as well as outside of their buildings. And Ray King is an incredible artist. And even though he doesn't have a formal engineering degree, he knows his stuff.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you are familiar with this, with what this fountain looked like many years ago. And thank you, Terry and Annette, again, for revitalizing and reviving this little area, the promenade. It's just made such a difference in the city. But this entire fountain was created 50 at the time when we did this, which was 2023, I think it was installed. There was a fountain that was built 50 years prior, and it was brutalist architecture, which can be awful, but I actually think that the architecture itself was quite good and interesting and unusual for a fountain. But it was made of cement. So 50 years later, it was cracked, it was dirty, it had yellowed, it really was in an awful state. And our initial thought was, let's put a piece of art in the fountain that will, be the centerpiece and will distract from what the fountain looks like, the structure looks like. In this case, we put a subcommittee together within Summit Public Art, and we put out 2 calls. I'm sure you're all familiar with RFPs, requests for proposals. So the first thing we did was we sent out a call for qualifications, because this was going to be an expensive permanent piece. And we wanted to see the caliber of the artists that were available to us. We got 35 submissions, and we brought that down to 10, I believe. And ultimately, we had many discussions with the 10 artists, and ultimately we landed on Ray King. So this piece is called Pleiades. And Ray is he's just so smart in so many ways. There we are.
At the unveiling.
You really have to see the piece to see how glorious it is. The piece is made of what they call dichroic glass. And what that means is each of the shards, or as Ray would call them, louvers, are 2 pieces of glass with dichroic film in between that has been baked into the glass. Now, you may be familiar with dichroic film. It was created by NASA. It's colorless, but its properties are such that as light moves overhead, the glass changes colors. So in this case, as the sun moves overhead, the colors change, and you can see the variety of colors as it's positioned differently. And as you move around the piece, of course, the way light is hitting the panels, you see a different color on one side for a particular panel than you will on the other side. So for me, this again is living art. It's constantly changing. It's changing depending on what the weather is. If it's a bright day, the colors are brighter. If it's a gray day, they're not as bright, but still there. It also changes depending on how close the sun is to the earth. So if you want to see this piece at its most brilliant, please come spring and summer and early fall. In the winter, it's also lovely, although it's not as brilliant. And, but Ray didn't stop at that. He couldn't stand the fact that the backdrop was so ugly. So he said, look, how about if I line the entire fountain structure in the front with slate so that it will look much more elegant? And we agreed to that. His vision, the reason he created the piece to look the way it does, is to give you a feeling for mountain peaks. We're in Summit, so there was that connection. And he called it Pleiades to reference a constellation that is quite close to Earth, and it's also called the Seven Sisters. They were the children of Atlas and Pleione, I believe. And so these pieces of glass are attached to stainless cables. And at the end of each cable is a little ball that represents one of the sisters. So he's just so clever. And what you're seeing here, it's hard to see, but it's wonderful in the winter when the water isn't going over it, because after all, this is a fountain. So you see it very clearly. Children are constantly running over to it. And again, I can't tell you how many people I've seen come to the promenade, have lunch, facing the fountain. Permanent piece of art, but it still gathers that attention. People are delighted by it. And then in the summer, you've got this magnificent color with the water flowing over, well, spring, summer, and early fall, with the waterfall coming out of the top of the fountain. It's just beautiful. I've had people say to me, this is a piece that belongs at MoMA. I mean, so like, what can I say? Of course it does. So that's Pleiades.
We're talking about pieces that belong to MoMA.
Yes.
So I think, I don't know if you remember, but this is a bronze sculpture by artist Willie Cole. I mean, Willie Cole is a New Jersey artist, but very well-known artist because he's actually in the permanent collection of the Smithsonian, the Metropolitan Museum, the MoMA. Not only is a wonderful artist, he's a wonderful human being. I mean, the most gracious a person to work with, and he's known for working with upcycle everyday materials. So years ago we brought also a big sculpture made out of recycled water bottle, what was called Vortex, and he's done cars with that. And this is made, the original sculpture was made of women's high heels, which is hence the title, Woman in Heels, and then made into the figure of a woman and then cast in bronze. So this is cast in bronze with red patina. And this sculpture weigh 450 pounds. So that's where also like relationship, you know, also with the artist helps. He was involved also with the Visual Arts Center of New Jersey. Some of the patrons there have bought his heart. So he was really interested in showing his art in Summit, but also there's a whole logistic part. You know, we work with the installer. We install the artwork for Frank Stella. I don't know if you're familiar, an artist who make massive art installation. So they came from upstate New York with crane, created a base. So there is a lot of, you know, details going into an installation like that to bring it to Summit. So I think we were all very pleased because you give us a chance to really show a museum piece in Summit by an artist that is also from New Jersey. So this is really cool. And I would say, if I guess if you'll get the presentation, if you are interested, you know, look up. I was looking at David Godfrey. Look them up online on their website. There's so much information so interesting. You can go through a rabbit hole reading about their career, their installation, their process. That's also a very fascinating part about public art, not only the impact, but what goes behind making it. And for an artist like Willie Cole, you know, making a bronze sculpture is probably the most expensive of all the material to make sculpture. So it's important that the work is exhibited, eventually sold. So
I just want to add that, you know, this costs money.
yes.
So originally, we naively thought temporary art will give the artist $1,000 to cover their expenses and we'll be fine. And at the beginning, it is true. They were willing to accept that. But with all due respect, the caliber of the art we were able to get was, in most cases, not as good as what happened as we offered more money and as our reputation was enhanced by the pieces that were coming to town. So now artists want to show in Summit. Great artists want to show in Summit because of our reputation and because they love the idea of a small city like Summit having this kind of art in the community. It's rare. So,
For you.
okay. So I did say that we work with many artists and 99.9999% of them are really wonderful. Couple are stinkers, but most of them are great.
Yeah.
And Emil Alzamora is one of the great ones. And we have shown a couple of pieces by him. Of course, again, you hear this a lot, nationally and internationally renowned. He lives in Beacon, New York. Emil is a very serious person.
Yes.
And he loves Greek mythology. And FYI, I don't think he realizes this, but his art pieces are subliminally related to his appearance because he is very tall and lanky. And guess what? His pieces are tall and thin. It's just really funny. I need to say that to him. He's very lovely. But just to give you an example, so artists, you know, have their principles. Thank you. And I remember talking to Paul Santilleri on the Watcher, and I said, Paul, do you think maybe the bird's beak should go out a little bit past X? And he just looked at me and he said, Vivian, I'm the artist. It's like, that's it. So with Emil, I called him up because we wanted a new piece, and we were happy to bring him back because he's so original. So I called him and I said, you know, Emil, I'm thinking it would really be fun if we could like have an installation that's in a few locations in town, but that speaks to the same thing. And it would be fun. And he goes, Vivian, I don't do fun. Okay, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I get it. So then he goes, how about if it had to do with outer space? I was like, fabulous. To me, that can be fun. You know, it's unique. Well, he came up with something which was much beloved. He made an installation of 3 couples. 2 of the couples involve, I think, a man and a woman, because they're, you know, kind of a little bit abstract. And one is definitely an adult with a child. And they were located in 3 separate locations. They're made of concrete. Emil, like the artist, virtually all the artists we work with are just perfectionists. And so this type of, well, cement, excuse me. It's made out of cement. Instead of the highly polished figures, which is what he usually does in bronze, this was rough because he wanted to give these figures something a little different. And some of them have backpacks on their backs. And it's called the Time Travelers. And he gets a kick, he got a kick out of these because they are these creatures from outer space coming to Earth to watch us watch them. And because he loves mythology, the overall title is Time Travelers, but each of the couples was designated with another title, which I don't remember, and it was made up anyway, but it had like a mythological bent to the title. And these were so beloved, and people kept saying, they're staying, right? They're permanent, right? And I said, I'm terribly sorry, but they have a lifespan of 2 years here, and then they have to go. So that's the biggest compliment, when people just don't want to let them go, but it's time.
Okay, I hope another beloved piece, I think, and I think that's one speaks to, very different type of installation. We had never made like a, mural that was installed like in the Village Green. The artist is Donna Conklin King. She is a New Jersey artist. Serendipity, again, she works, has a studio at Manufacturers Village. She's an artist I knew. I went to the open studio, and she had a few pieces on the wall of her studio. I'm like, oh, Donna, what is this? And I thought it was interesting. So it cast concrete. So, the metal, the tin metal ceiling, the old tin metal ceiling. She cast in concrete, reinforced with fiberglass, and create this it's called cave painting. But it just, an idea sparked. I saw a few panels. I'm like, wow, this is really nice. And I think it was very dreamlike cave painting, and was installed for 2 years in the Village Green. And Donna Conklin King, like some of the artists, because first they're from New Jersey, or they're not too far, because the collaboration was very successful, and because they're very, they gotta also, it needs to go both ways, because for the artists, they really appreciate the great feedback from the people, from the community. It provides them visibility for their artwork, something that they might not be able to do otherwise if we didn't give them the stage. So I think Donna is one of those artists which I think now would be willing to do anything for Summit Public Art, because she's really so enjoyed the relationship.
Yeah.
So I think this is, I don't know if it was one of my favorite, but I did love that piece. The blue, it was dreamy, that sky in the middle of the Village Green, I think worked so well. And I think, again, where it was installed with the greenery in the back works very well. So I think we have 1 or 2 more, and then after that we'll open to, are we done? Yes.
Now
Okay.
we just have a slideshow of other pieces. These are not, this is not comprehensive.
I'm not going to, what we're going to do is I'm going to run through them while we answer questions. So I think we're ready to,
Yes, we're ready for
to answer a
questions you may
question. And the image, a mix of art that is still there, permanent installation, temporary installation. So please feel free to ask any question you want. Is there a map? There used to be a map on the
Our
website,
map
but the
is not
website.
updated,
Yeah.
unfortunately. We do an annual tour, and we are going to be posting on Instagram, summitpublicart.com, and you'll be able to see all of our new pieces if you want. We'll point them out here.
The website is being redone.
Yes.
So I think it's not fully up to date, but you can see a little bit of the information on the website. Yes.
Yeah. This is a mural we just did, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry. Questions?
Okay.
Sorry.
You know the drill. If you have a question, please come up, have a seat, and online, if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand so we know you have a question.
One thought was out there. You mentioned on the one piece that was going to be there for 2 years, 2.5 years. What happens afterwards? Do they go like on the road like a Broadway show, or do they get put in the warehouse until some other city wants one of these? Or how does that work?
Well, I guess all of those,
Yes.
it has actually happened with one of the artists we had in Summit, who actually was a little tricky situation. He had moved, he now lived in Spain, and his time was up, and we wanted him to pick him up. And we, in the end, end up in New Providence, New Jersey. The city of New Providence had approached us because they wanted to have some public art. And so it was, so their Department of Public Works. So most of the time for large installation, you know, they go back to the artist studio until they find someone else who would like to install it, you know, but say, yeah, and most artists don't love to have all those big pieces sitting out around. So, yeah. So rarely they go somewhere else right away, I would say.
Right.
Vivian, yeah.
A really wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, so you start a project and you have an uphill climb. And
Yes.
as you say, you've kind of gotten over the hill. Now people recognize who you are.
Yes.
And they come to you. Was there a specific point in time when you recognized that you had made it?
I think, to be honest, and not to suck up to Estelle too much, but Estelle had a comfort level with artists based on her background. So when she came to our committee, she was able to bring artists that were more impactful. And for example, she has a little place in Beacon, New York, and there are a lot of artists in the Hudson River Valley. Hudson, New York, excuse me. And what was the name of the artist who did the mushroom?
Jason Middlebrook.
Jason Middlebrook. So Estelle goes into this guy's gallery and says, listen, you don't know me, studio, excuse me, you don't know me, but blah, 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 blah. So once we started bringing pieces that were bigger and more unique, we started to get known. It wasn't until really the last 5 years that we had the ability to bring more of these really renowned artists and these big pieces, like the DeWitt Godfrey piece. He won an award.
Yes.
In Michigan. His huge piece. The image didn't show it. It's massive. Was in a plaza, and it was with an Alexander Calder huge red piece. The two pieces worked together, and he won an award. So when we start getting artists like that are so prominent and so brilliant, also the Pleiades piece in the fountain. That was so attention grabbing, and the city was all gung ho about it, and that made people stop.
For this piece, Vivian was mentioning Jason Middlebrook. So Jason Middlebrook, when he installed here, he had a solo show at Masmoka. So for an artist, this is a big deal. So people were like, "Oh my God, they're bringing an artist who had a solo show at Masmoka," and so that kind of snowball effect, making other artists realize, like, okay, what we're doing, we know what we're doing, you know. Yeah.
Sure.
I strongly suspect the lyric is on the site of the local theater. Is it on the corner of Beechwood and Bank Street?
Yes.
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah, there was a theater there in the 40s and 50s.
There was what?
A bank.
Oh, I see. I thought if you went, when I came to Summit like 30 years ago, if you drove down Springfield Avenue, right in the vicinity of the, what is it, the Village? No, not the Village Trattoria.
You're thinking of the Strand Theater.
Yeah. But you're talking about the
But
lyric.
then there was a second one.
Yes,
It was called the Lyric.
Yeah.
It was on the corner of Beechwood.
yes,
And
that's,
then when they tore it down, they came a parking lot.
yes.
So that's.
Oh, that's where it was.
exactly,
Okay.
that's exactly
Yeah.
where we are.
That
Thank
space
you.
needed
Thank
some
you.
love.
Yes. Ah,
That's in French.
Oh, she's born in France, I don't French, so go for it.
Yeah, I do follow up quite a bit, but I must admit, I've never heard of any of those artists. I'm really sorry about that.
That's okay. There's so
I'm
many.
just puzzled. What sort of network do you have to find those people? Is that a question of time, going to galleries and the art? Because I go to museums all the time, but you know, I can't see.
So I will answer for myself, and then Vivian, you can give your answer. For me, I am an art advisor. So I work with private, independent art advisor. I work for private clients and a large corporation sourcing contemporary arts, meaning that I go to a lot of galleries. I go to art fair, I go to Miami, but I go to some smaller ones. I go to Chicago. We have gone together. I mean, we are also located at a place where there is so many wonderful artists. Upstate New York, a lot of artists have their studio upstate New York because there is space. The artists that represented the US at the Venice Biennial as a studio outside Hudson, New York, Jason Middlebrook in upstate New York, David Guthrie, upstate New York. So in New Jersey also, Manufacturer Village is it South Orange? No,
East Orange.
East Orange, Manufacturer Village. Look it up. It is a series of artist studio. I mean, there is some amazing artists who have their studio there. I guess it's been repurposed as artists. They do open studio every year. And that's how I knew Donna Conklin, the one who did like the cave painting. But I went to our studio, I saw this and I'm like, okay, that could be the beginning of something. So I think and then now online, of course, we have so many access to so much information and you need to be a little bit there. And Jason Middlebrook, I saw where his studio was. I mean, granted, I'm an art advisor, so they're more, willing to respond to me. And I say, oh, can I come to your studio? And he said, yes, please do come. Because artists, it's like writers, like musicians, they don't do that for themselves. They want the public to know about it. So they're always happy to have people look at their work, start a conversation and possibly enjoy their work, So that's my answer.
So just to go along with what Estelle is saying, when we first started out, we got a gentleman to join our committee who was very into, Michael Chan was his name. And he loved art, he had wanted to be an artist. And he kind of took over the temporary art scene for us because he had connections, he knew a lot of artists. But what's happened is, number one, we've all become much more bold in actually looking online, as well as going to art fairs, as well as talking to people at the Visual Arts Center, as well as going to local museums and seeing artists that we think are really good and just picking up the phone. And from the artists we work with, they will also make recommendations to us. Now, you're right, virtually all of these artists, with the exception of Willie Cole, and Ray King, who's pretty well known, they're what I would call mid-career artists.
Yes.
So there's emerging artists who have just started. Then you have your mid-career artists who are in the middle of, the middle of their careers. And then you've got the super well-known artists who, quite frankly, we can't afford. We did have a piece by an artist named Vadia Boaz. I don't know if you have ever heard of him. He did these sculptures. He did these sculptures that were in bronze,
No, not this one.
but very about people. In fact, if you go to Columbus Circle, you will see his huge versions of what he loaned to us outside the Time Warner residences. But most of these artists are mid-career, and there are many, many wonderful artists out there who just haven't had the luck, quite frankly, to become as famous as some of the artists who do, make the museums. But there are a lot of hungry artists out there who are great. The other thing I will say is I'm in New York a lot. New York has very thriving public art programs. So if I see a piece I love, I take a picture of the piece, I take a picture of the signage, and I contact the artist.
May I ask, is it possible to sign those sculptures? Because when you walk around, I never see the name of the
Oh,
artist.
We have
There's signage.
signage.
There's
We have-
signage.
We have signage, yes, and we're like, now we've installed the permanent signage for the three pieces that we did a year ago,
I
that
don't
have
see
added
the
to our.
signage on any of it.
amount. Well, we do put signage next to it, and you will see it, I promise.
Yeah, there is signage.
You know, signage is even that is an issue for us because we want to be known. So what we do is we will make a sign approximately this size that's in the ground. That doesn't make artists happy because they want their piece to stand out. They don't want a sign intruding on the experience of their piece. We want a sign because we want the viewer to know what they're looking at, and we want to know it's from Summit Public Art. So they don't argue with us at all, but we're very sensitive to that, and we try to position the signs in such a way that it doesn't intrude on the experience of the art. You will notice that we try not to do political pieces. However, sometimes it turns out to be a political piece because this was installed during COVID or just at the beginning of COVID. And so a mask was put on his mouth. A mask was removed from his mouth.
That break head, yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, fabulous talk, amazing work that you're all doing.
Thank you.
We love it.
Just
Yeah.
wonderful for Summit. Obviously from the response here, this is a room full of guys who appreciate art. They're very enthusiastic. But they're also very interested in financial matters, one of our biggest interests. So could you say a little bit about your funding?
Yes.
The sources, is it from corporations, grants, local residents with very deep pockets, legacy giving? Do you fund individual pieces? You go out and find somebody that will pay for a particular one? You have general funds, or maybe an endowment by now, whatever.
I wish. So this is the way it works, folks. We get a fair amount of money from private donations. We've lived in town a long time. People have connections. We beg. And we get most of our funding through, we do an event every year. Now, in the prior years, I'm answering this a little bit more wordy. In prior years, we did the ubiquitous gala, where you come, you eat, we ask you for money, you have dessert and you leave. But this year we started something new, and we're going to continue to do it as long as we're around, I believe. It was called Anonymous Art. The New York Times had an article some months back about tiny art being the new art. So they had I loved it. I want to backtrack for a minute. I don't know, I'm docent at the Visual Arts Center, and our definition of contemporary art is art done by living artists. So I just want to tell you that. That's the only prerequisite. You have to be alive.
Yeah.
So they had a picture. It was a very small piece of art on a big white wall, and I thought it looked fabulous. Well, turns out Martha's Vineyard does this event every year where artists and others donate tiny art, and then people purchase it. So we replicated that event in Summit. We made the price of attendance relatively modest at $100 a ticket, because in Summit, galas can go for $500–600 a ticket. We wanted to be inclusive. And then the deal was artists donated 6x6-inch works of art. They could be even sculptures encased in a frame. Nobody knew who the artists were. The viewers did not know. Artists signed in the back, and each piece was worth $100. And up to 6 people could sign their names next to each piece to obtain the piece. And in those cases where pieces had more than one bidder, we rolled dice. And if you were the third person to sign on the dotted line, and number 3 came up on the dice, you got the piece for $100. We were a huge success. Now, we had people sponsor the event. Some people are incredibly generous and will give us $10,000 or $5,000. Some people will give us $1,000, and all those people get recognition on the signage. So a fair amount of money comes from those sponsors. We also have a wonderful person who is a grant writer, and Union County typically gives us money, which is greatly appreciated. And
The Summit Foundation?
also the Summit Foundation gives us money.
We have several members
Which is greatly appreciated. And that's essentially where we get our money. We do occasionally get people to mail it and send in money. Sometimes, like for the Pleiades, we did an entirely different thing where we really made a pitch to all our big donors and advertised a lot because we needed a lot more money for the Pleiades piece. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, all in all, I mean, that's when it was my time, but I think that's about the same thing. An operating budget of $50,000, meaning 5-piece, some.
Or less.
Or less, maybe 45, you can go from, let's say, $40,000 to $60,000. That does not always include the permanent art, and you asked, there is no endowment, so all the money is raised through Summit Public Art. It's really a 100% volunteer organization, and we're lucky to live also in an area where there is, a major donor, for that Willie Cole bronze sculpture. When I approached him, he recommended that I approach a major collector that I knew, and he said maybe she can donate half of the cost of bringing the sculpture, which she did. So I approached her, and she was willing to fund half the cost of bringing the sculpture, and Summit Public Art donated to Summit Public Art.
Inflation. Now an average piece is $10,000 to $15,000. And we typically we will spend around $45,000. And like the murals, $15,000. The piece, there's now, I think that there's a gold column that we just installed.
Yeah.
We'll show you in a
So
minute.
those were earlier.
That's already been made. Oh, I should add something. Okay, and then we'll talk about
No,
Pocket
no.
Charm. That piece had been made before, but this is a very well-known artist, and he wanted $15,000. He wasn't taking a penny less. And we just felt it was a really nice piece. It worked beautifully with the colors in the Promenade Fountain. I know this picture doesn't show that so well. I don't know how well received this piece will be. I think people like the art a lot, but there are people who will think, what's the big deal? That's temporary art, and it's okay with us, and we're willing to pay that money. But it's hard for us. We're very grateful for the money, and we would love to get sponsorship from like Bristol Myers Squibb. We just don't have a connection. So if anyone here can give me some connection, I'm open to it. I'm open to this.
We have guys retired from those places.
I know.
Maybe they still have some pull.
Exactly.
My great pleasure to thank you. So I just want to tell you that this is the symbol of the Summit Old Guard, which is the orchid. It was established in 1930. So at that time, Summit was the capital for orchids. The greenhouses in Summit sent orchids all over the US. So Vivian,
Thank you so much.
thank you. And Estelle.
Thank you.
And when
Thank
we
you for
are
inviting us.
graced to have
Oh,
That's so
so
sweet.
nice.
women joining our motley group here, we have actual orchids for you.
Thank you. They're
Oh,
beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
So thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.